Inside a hostile foreign country, a CIA officer works under the legal doctrine of plausible deniability. This ensures that if the operative is captured, the President of the United States can formally deny their existence, preventing a diplomatic crisis, while leaving the officer entirely isolated. For the captive, the risk is being disappeared. Without government acknowledgement, an operative can be interrogated, tortured, or used as political leverage for years, knowing that their home country has officially disowned them. This threat became an internal crisis when the CIA realized its centralized fortress had been breached from the inside. A foreign mole had successfully infiltrated the very division tasked with managing operations against the country's primary adversaries. When an agency is penetrated, its standard defenses become its greatest liability. The infiltrator doesn't need to bypass external firewalls. They possess clearance to view active case files, identify undercover officers by name, and document the specific technical methods being used to collect intelligence. Centralized intelligence structures create a single point of failure. By aggregating vast amounts of sensitive data into one hub, the agency ensures that a single turncoat has the capacity to dismantle decades of operational work. History records the cost of these vulnerabilities through men like Aldrich Ames. His access allowed him to provide foreign adversaries with a high-resolution map of American intelligence activities, leading to the exposure and execution of multiple assets. A mole creates a state of operational paralysis. Because the enemy has a window into the agency's technical collection methods, any digital communication or high-tech surveillance becomes a beacon that the adversary can track and neutralize. This technical observability isn't confined to the CIA. The same extraction capabilities are currently utilized by border authorities. In a secondary screening room, agents can use proprietary software to clone a traveler's entire digital life, scraping hard drives and smartphone data, often without requiring a password. The CIA's failure to secure its own headquarters against this level of technical extraction suggests a broader reality. If an $8 trillion security apparatus cannot protect its own data, the individual's expectation of digital privacy has no basis in the current technical landscape. To operate in an environment where all digital channels were compromised by the mole, the CIA had to build an autonomous, decentralized network. They referred to this model as a shadow cell. The team discarded billion-dollar satellite links and encrypted digital devices. They returned to a foundational methodology known as sticks and bricks, relying exclusively on human observation, physical dead drops, and manual tradecraft. This move away from high-tech solutions was a response to the failure of the conventional military model. Despite immense funding, sophisticated technology was consistently neutralized by low-tech tactics on the ground. The U.S. spent $8 trillion over 2 decades, yet struggled to defeat adversaries who operated through scattered, node-based networks. A rigid, top-down system cannot effectively predict or track a decentralized opponent that lacks a single point of failure. The shadow cell adopted the communication habits of its adversaries. Officers avoided sending emails over the internet, instead logging into shared anonymous accounts to leave messages in an unsent draft folder, leaving no digital transmission for the mole to intercept. Multi-billion-dollar systems are optimized for large-scale, predictive threats. When those systems face an agile, decentralized network that uses human behavior as its primary tool, the advantage shifts to the smaller, more primitive entity. Popular media suggests that a spy survival depends on high-speed evasion and physical combat. In reality, once an officer is identified by a hostile surveillance team, survival depends entirely on psychological discipline and the ability to remain unremarkable. An officer identifies a tail by running a surveillance detection route. By moving slowly through a city for several hours and making themselves completely predictable, they force the surveillance team to stay close, eventually boring the hostiles into making a visible mistake. The goal is to induce a state of complacency or panic in the adversary. If the surveillance team loses sight of the target for even a moment, they often break their own cover to re-establish contact, revealing their identities and their vehicles to the officer. In a hostile interrogation, officers utilize mirroring, a psychological tactic where they subconsciously mimic the posture and vocal tone of the interrogator. This builds a false rapport, projecting the calm demeanor expected of an innocent traveler. They employ counter-elicitation by providing only the most minimal, factual answers and then utilizing silence. In an interrogation, silence creates an instinctive pressure that often forces the untrained questioner to fill the gap, revealing information the officer can then use to refine their story. Surviving a compromised environment isn't a matter of digital evasion or superior equipment. It is the mastery of human psychology, the ability to manipulate an opponent's expectations through foundational behavior. The operational breakdown at the CIA highlights a systemic risk that now characterizes the broader American landscape. The internal breach succeeded because the agency had become too centralized, creating a single hub that, once compromised, blinded the entire network. This chart tracks the concentration of executive authority. As the public outsourced responsibility, power consolidated into a rigid, centralized branch. This creates efficiency, but also a massive single point of failure. When every decision filters through one office, the entire system becomes vulnerable to shock. The legacy structures of the nation are functioning like the legacy systems of the CIA. They have grown too massive and too rigid to adapt when the geopolitical landscape shifts, leaving the individuals within them exposed. Applying these indicators to the geopolitical trendline has led intelligence officers to a specific conclusion. Based on the concentration of systemic risk and the erosion of decentralized power, a growing number of these specialists are planning to leave the United States before 2030. Internal assessments suggest a 60% probability of a volatile transition. If current centralization holds, the resulting fallout could take decades to stabilize. Avoiding this fallout requires adopting the mindset of the shadow cell. Surviving a systemic shift requires building your own decentralized redundancies and securing your physical autonomy now. The government cannot provide a safety net for a system it can no longer control. You must decentralize your dependencies and secure your own path before the window of opportunity for a controlled exit is gone.